Hey YouTubers, I'm finally back with the remainder of my Leica Monochrom video series, and I sent the camera back a few days ago, and I have to say overall I enjoyed using the camera. I'll just cut right to the chase. I'll start by saying while I liked using the camera a lot and I got some really nice results from it, um, I couldn't spend $8 grand on it. I just feel like shooting in monochrome only, even though I mostly shoot black and white film, shooting in monochrome only with a digital camera removes a degree of freedom that you normally have with a digital camera, and it seems odd to pay more to have less choice. To me, the digital workflow is all about being able to make decisions late. So you put off decisions, you shoot raw, you shoot at the highest possible resolution, you defer your decisions until late in the process. And, the monochrome takes away one of those decisions, which is, am I going to shoot color or am I going to shoot black and white? That being said, the results from the camera are amazing, at least in terms of detail. You have to understand what's going on with the average color digital camera in the first place to understand what's special about the monochrome. This is something I've been wanting to talk about as a topic before. I'll try to cover it at a high level right now. In a color sensor, the average color sensor, most color sensors, every pixel does not contribute to the final image. In a color sensor, each pixel, each photo site is dedicated to one color, red, green, or blue. And there's a percentage that goes. It's not, 1/3 of each color. I believe there's more green sensors than red or blue. And then there's a distribution of these colors over the sensor. And then there's a software process that takes those separate colors and merges them together into the final photo that you see. So the final image doesn't have the same resolution as the megapixel count that the camera will claim. That's fine because these days the megapixel counts are getting huge, but in reality your actual resolution is much less than the camera's megapixel count. With the monochrome, and by the way with foveon sensors, which are in Sigma cameras, and that's a whole other topic, there's a one-to-one correspondence between the pixel and a piece of information on your print or on the screen. So it's, the Leica Monochrom being an M9 that shoots in monochrome, literally every pixel of that 18 megapixels, I think it is dedicated to a piece of information in the photo. So the amount of resolution is incredible. The amount of detail that the camera captures with the right lens on it, I was pretty astounded by it, and it looks really great either on the screen or on print. It's got to be said, you don't see those details until you do a print. A screen's a very low resolution device, so looking at detail on a screen doesn't really mean much unless you zoom in to 100% and sort of see one screen pixel to one pixel of digital information. So, and I'm going to go through some of that a little later in this. I'll show some of the photos on screen and then zoom in 100%, and you can see the amount of detail the camera captures. In terms of the results that I got, I felt like I got really the best results with people, and that could be because I was shooting a Zeiss sonar for the people photos that I took, and the sonar is an incredible lens. I was shooting it wide open, and sort of this combination of ultra detail from the monochrome and this beautiful, soft, romantic rendering that the sonar gives, that combination to me really rocked. And I was super happy with the candids that I took Christmas Eve with the camera. And oddly, unlike with other cameras, I felt like the camera, the images from it looked better the higher the ISO that I was shooting at. And that's because a bit of texture starts coming in. The noise, I'm not going to say it's film-like, that's BS, but it's not bothersome noise. It actually kind of contributes to the image a bit and gives it a little tiny bit of grit that actually sort of reduces that digital slick sort of plasticky look that people talk about. And I see that in some of these photos. They're almost too perfect, like the landscapes that I did and that sort of thing. It's almost like they're a little too perfect. Whereas these high ISO shots that you'll see here, they came out nicely. And for me, high ISO on this camera was 6400. 6400 looked great. I'm sorry to admit that I forgot to set the auto ISO feature to allow the camera to go to its max on Christmas Eve. I left it at a max of 6400, so that is the highest ISO shot I have. But they look great in my opinion. If you go to 100% crop, you see lots of noise, but it is not objectionable noise in my opinion. It actually looks very, very nice when you look at the photo in a normal presentation, normal size on your screen or in a print. Now I'm going to just hold up some prints. So here we go. I was really happy with the prints out of the camera. I'm using an Epson. Looks like I have a little issue with my printer at the moment. I'm using an Epson R3000, and it's doing a really nice job. Looks like I need to clean my print heads, though. You won't see it in the video. So this is a shot, one of the first shots I took with the Monochrom. And this was taken at my favorite camera shop, Inglewood Photo, not too far from where I live. And this is just a customer. It's a candid shot. This was with the Voigtlander 35 f1.4, and it looks great to me, especially the shallow depth of field given by the f1.4 lens. I kind of use one lens per day. I think I mentioned that in my kind of day-by-day deals. This is also with the Voigtlander, and you're never going to see the detail in it, but the tones are super nice. The Monochrom impressed me with its dynamic range, and the tones are really good. You got a lot to work with. The images come out very gray right off of the raw, but then you can increase contrast, you can pull up the whites, you can do whatever you want. I found that the raw files were very malleable, and they were pretty easy to work with, and the camera provides really good dynamic range in my opinion. So then these photos were taken with the sonar, and you've seen, I guess you've seen the others that I just showed, but this was on DU campus. And the detail in this, when I look at it, is pretty astounding. You can see every mark on these stones. And that's the sonar stop down. The sonar is very dreamy at wide aperture, but when you stop it down, it's very, very sharp. So, you know, I'm going to whip through some of these. This was some of the architecture on DU campus. And I'm going to skip ahead a bit here in a second. This is a pretty high dynamic range shot here. The sky was very bright. I should have cropped this. The sky was very bright, and these buildings were practically in silhouette, but I was able to pull the detail back out of these guys and get a reasonable shot out of it, and that's usually pretty hard with digital. You usually lose some information. The only thing that's pure white in this, you probably can't see it here, there's a contrail right around here, a jet contrail that's, you know, that's at, what they call it, zone 9. So I was able to keep this very high contrast scene under control. I'm going to skip ahead in these to Christmas Eve and the people shots that I took. This is my sister-in-law. This photo looks beautiful in the flesh. It's a really pretty shot. And a lot of that is made possible by the qualities of the Zeiss sonar. This is a 50mm f1.5 lens. So I was super happy with my results on these. This is my wife with our niece. I took all these shots wide open because this was normal nighttime indoor lighting in a house. That kind of lighting is also kind of tricky because you have very bright whites near the lamps, near the lighting, and then you have a pretty intense fall off. And the camera, again, it gave me really good dynamic range, so I could get these nice darks, and then the highlights on my, what would she be to me? I guess she's my great niece by marriage. they're really nice. I mean, this photo has beautiful tones in it. It's another one, same girl. And then this is our great nephew and our nephew. And so in this case, you have bright light here and good darks over here, and the tonal range came out beautifully in the print. So I'm really happy with the print results. Now the question is, could you get these results with another camera? It's quite possible. If you're shooting a camera that offers pretty good dynamic range to start with and creates great raw files, then sure, you should be able to pull shadows, shadow detail up, and you should be able to pull kind of burned out highlights down a bit and get reasonable detail at both extremes, and then get good wide tones in the middle. But I think the Monochrom excels at that due to the fact that it constrains one dimension, which is color, so it can concentrate on good tones as opposed to good color and good tones. So from that angle, you know, maybe 10 years from now when the Monochrom is affordable, maybe I would get one. I'm not sure about that. I'm a lot more likely in the near term, if I were to buy another M, to get an M9 and have most of the performance, but all of the color, you know, but then be able to do black and white conversions and make my decisions late in the process. For example, using software to emulate a filter after the fact, rather than having to choose the filter up front like you would have to do with the Monochrom, and then sort of live with those results after the fact. If you're going to shoot digital, you may as well get those advantages, is what I'm saying. Obviously with film, you kind of have to accept that a lot of decisions are made up front, but that's the nature of film. We're talking about digital now. And as I've been saying, I kind of hate to give up a little of that flexibility with the Monochrom. Still, great camera if you like the feel of an M, and if you're a dedicated Monochrom person, heck yeah, check it out. Rent one is my suggestion, and do some prints. I didn't do any huge ones. I would like to. I'm going to keep my files, obviously. Maybe I will do a very large format one and just see how it holds up. It's going to hold up better than a color a color image converted to black and white, because you really have more information in these shots. So between an M9 and a Monochrom, the shot from the Leica Monochrom is going to have more detail. It's going to be more enlargeable, etc., etc. So those are my thoughts, and now I'll have a look at some of the images on screen so you can get a feel for how much detail is actually captured.